welcome back to another pop marketing podcast. My name's Joe Cox. I'm the pop marketer. And thank you all for joining us today. I'm pumped. I met this guy at in Kansas City at a marketing conference where we were both speaking, and he snagged me right after my talk on kind of the marketer's introduction to the metaverse, and was like, dude, hey, let's chat, and loved the talk. And then it came to this. And I found out that Tyler Farnsworth, who we have today on the show, is also the chief marketing officer at Built by Gamers. Built by Gamers is a premier esports organization based in the always warm Phoenix, Arizona, super sunny Phoenix. And it is their goal to build competitive teams across esports while connecting fans, of course. But we're going to learn today more about esports because I'm not done with it yet. We had John on, but I want to learn more. And I was really interested in Tyler's perspective because you come from a influencer agency, or more background of that I'm familiar with too, of kind of the agency background. And now you've taken this leap over a pandemic into the world of esports. So I'm really can't wait to kind of hear your context and hear more about your journey. But hey, Tyler, welcome to the Pop Marketing Podcast. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me. That was a great background, and I was sitting there front row. I was thrilled for your presentation, and you knocked it out of the park. And I sat there and said, "Man, this is a guy I need to know, and I need to consume whatever content he's putting out, because what you put out there on stage was outstanding. It was had a lot of foresight to it. It was clearly looking to the future." And I guarantee anybody who's in that room got some value. So thrilled to be here today.
Well, it's a really exciting time, and I want to get to that because, like any kind of big ideas and big things, like everything is connected, right? That's for everything sort of connected. So the conversation on esports really isn't that far away from a conversation on metaverse. I'm sure we'll get there, but at first I want to get some more context. So let's talk about let's talk about Built by Gamers first. Let's
Sure.
talk about what is Built by Gamers. We talked about this a bit with John on the complexities of esports organizations, what games are played, what the sport, what is the ins and outs of those. So I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about Built by Gamers and what it is you all do out there.
Yeah, no, that's great. This whole esports industry is interesting. Yeah, and if we just spend a second breaking it down, John Davidson did a great job. But yeah, you have these esports organizations, and the best way I can describe that is, imagine if there was a team or a company that owned the Phoenix Suns, the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Coyotes, and it was all one organization, and they had these multiple sports teams underneath that organization. Uh, that's kind of what an esports org is. It has, and all of the uh, I guess content creators around that too, the bloggers, the pundits, all of these folks who are making content around it. This is this cool community that we're able to build. So inside an esports organization, you're going to have teams that play on different titles, right? We have teams that are on that play in Fortnite, that play in Valorant, which is a fairly new Riot game, and that play in Call of Duty. And then we also have a number of content creators, Twitch streamers, YouTube creators, TikTok creators, all kinds of great folks who are part of this larger Built by Gamers organization. And just to tease that out a bit, then you have the publishers, right? These game developers. And you have the platforms, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, where everybody is Discord, where everyone's coming to interact and engage with each other. And then most importantly, you have the fans, all right? The communities that are built. And we are here to focus on creating deep levels of fandom. People that love what it means to be a fan of Built by Gamers, to engage with Built by Gamers, to elevate themselves. We see that a gamer is a very different definition than you might think, right? For the longest time, the gamer has been somewhat vilified, somewhat made fun of. The late 20s gentleman in his mother's basement that we see on late night shows, right? That is not the case. We see that over 3.5 billion people on Earth are gamers, right? We're all gamers. We're people who are trying to level up, trying to be better, trying to find entertainment in unique ways, and that's the way that we see it. So we're trying to build the most compelling gaming lifestyle organization on planet Earth.
Yeah, it is cool to watch something grow so quickly out, because you get that opportunity only once to kind of define the DNA of that thing, right? Like that thing. And like most of those ideas, you and I didn't have much to say about how the NFL came
Sure.
to be, right? Those things were all in place, and all those things that we grew up with were kind of all in place and kind of firm. And you get to play in this realm that is literally being built piece by piece as it goes 1,000 miles per hour, which is always exciting. Tell me this: what games does Built by Gamer play? Like what specific is there certain games that come in play more than others with your teams, or does Built by Gamers kind of is throughout all types of competitive gaming?
Yeah. So right now we staff professional teams in Fortnite, Valorant, and Call of Duty. So we compete on those three titles right now. We're constantly evaluating where else we wish to staff and put together teams. It's fun to see the rise of Halo Infinite. Being a Halo fan, a longtime Halo fan, we're thrilled about that rise, as well as Rocket League and a lot of the other titles that are large in this space right now. But I want to take it a step above that. Game titles are always going to shift and change. We want to be part of the zeitgeist, the gaming zeitgeist, as it shifts and adjusts. And so there's a bit of just gaming culture, gaming adjacent culture that we will always support, be a part of, create communities around, create content around, create in real life events around, so that whether it's nostalgic games that people are playing or whether it's the newest, hottest, most in demand esports title around, we're gonna play a part.
I like it. And we were just before we had started, we were talking a little bit about Red Bull, and one of my buddies that worked over there put it really well. I think you're in the same spot, is that we're not pushing a product, we're marketing a lifestyle, right? Like, and then it's all about, really, when you're pushing out what you want to be and the things that we do best, it's really about celebrating and telling people about and bringing people into that lifestyle, right? Like, and for identity. Like, do you think that sounds familiar?
It is a lifestyle, and we're seeing that. We've had a huge breakdown of, it's not just a young people thing anymore, right? It spans a huge wide age range. There's not gender disparity in the same way as there once was. We see it being very much a global and worldwide community. We see that it's spanned to where, the jock, it plays games, right? Like everybody plays games, is involved in gaming culture. Here in July of 2021, we saw the front cover of Sports Illustrated featured the FaZe Clan, and Kyler Murray, the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, is a part of the FaZe Clan. Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns is a part of 100 Thieves, right? And they're proud partners of that. They have it in their Instagram bios. These are some of the best sports stars, traditional sports stars in the world. And they know that the world of gaming is a huge part of culture for them and for the world itself. And so we see this blend. Just this past week, Fortnite announced a partnership with Balenciaga, right? So we're seeing this huge trend of integration with traditional fashion or high fashion. And think what you will of that. It's just interesting to see. We've seen Gucci partnerships, we've seen Ralph Lauren partnerships, we've seen just a lot of unique integration and crossover of gaming lifestyle and gaming culture and pop culture in general. And I don't think there's a huge separation there. I think it is this blend, this soup that we're all in. And man, I love it.
Yeah, totally. I'm pop marketing. Like that is it. It is just it's a soup, and gaming is so big and so wide and vast. I think that's what, if I have one thing to always talk to marketers about, it's like you can't put it in a, it's tough to put it in a box. It's encompassing of it all, right? It's a part of the zeitgeist, not a certain subculture, right? Like, or a certain sub place.
Sure.
It's kind of now in the threads of just everything and how people think. Tell me about the name. Names intrigue me because I think, words are important. And when you have built by gamers, you didn't create it from the very beginning, but and I think that's where we'll go next. But where did built by gamers come from, and what does that kind of mean?
Yeah. So this is to where at its core, this is an organization that is built by and for gamers, right? And we define a gamer, like I said, a little bit differently. It's an individual committed to constant improvement in life. I think that gamers and gamer methodology is a sign of success, right? It's an individual who is constantly working to improve, to figure out ways to upskill themselves, figure out ways around a challenge or a problem. We've seen that gaming terminology has exited the living room and made its way into the boardroom and the locker rooms around the world. These concepts of leveling up, these concepts of finding the Easter egg, these concepts of looking at your stats and being a bit better each day, grinding for the goodness there. And I think that's something to be celebrated. Like anything, moderation should exist as appropriate so that you have a balanced lifestyle. But we find that it's our goal to elevate the world of gaming, to make it more inclusive, to make it less toxic, to make it a place where it's these ideals are celebrated and promoted. So we are built by gamers. For gamers, and it's also our vision to enlarge in the tent, to widen the tent, to bring in people who historically would say, I don't know, I mean, why, why would I watch someone play a video game instead of playing a video game? And it's like, well, you like playing golf. I also see you watch the Masters tournament. So
Yeah.
let's talk more about that. So
Yeah, it's too funny that it takes that to click in people's heads, right? It's like, wait a minute, you watch a lot of sports. Like, this is just another one. This is another one. And anybody, like, hey, I'm not young. Like, I grew up with video games as the core. It's definitely in
sure.
the boardroom. Like, the concepts of that. And if you were young, you don't really need to know why people watch video games. I can't add up the amount of video games I watched because there wasn't another controller. The game didn't have multiplayer, so we just, that was half the fun, was,
Sitting there on the couch waiting for
taking
your
turns.
turn.
Yeah, taking turns, and I loved the good RPG. Just watch the show go on, while my buddy, played late night. Um, let's talk about, because I would definitely want to jump into that fashion brands and kind of the integration with traditional marketing, and kind of why marketers in general have been slow. I don't think that's
Sure.
because it's not because anybody's doesn't get it. I don't think so anymore. I don't think it's as much of like, it's just those kids. I think it's because it's harder, or it's just different than anything. But that's my
Yeah.
own guess. I want you to help me with that. You tell us about, like, how did you find yourself in a pandemic, making that switch from agency world to gaming, and talk a little bit about your background. Like, how'd you get to where you are here at Chief Marketing Officer for Built by Gamers?
You bet. So I went to high school in the early 2000s, and while I was in high school, a movie came out in 2002 called Minority Report, starring Tom Cruise, and I love that movie. And that movie like changed my life because I remember. So it's set in this dystopian future where Tom Cruise has the ability to they can see before a crime has happened, right? So the government can see that a crime is going to be committed, and then they come and arrest you, right? But so it's supposed to be kind of creepy and odd, and not how the future should look. But uh, Tom Cruise was walking around and there were these unique billboards that would scan his eyeballs and then serve up personalized advertising to him. And I remember this Lexus ad that was like, serves it up as he's walking under this grungy underpass. And it's like, the road you're on, John Anderton, is the one less traveled, Lexus. And then he walks into this clothing store and it's like, hey, Mr. Anderton, how are those shirts fitting you? And here's some other things you might be interested in. And at the time, it was supposed to be super creepy. Like, hey, oh my gosh, why are they seeing you in this way? But it lit this fire in my brain. And this is pre-Facebook. This is really the internet the way we see it today. So we didn't have personalized advertising in that way today. The cookies weren't even really as
Not
much
even
of a thing as
close.
they are now,
Not even.
right?
Yeah, they was way ahead. It
No.
was on a lot of things, but yeah, it was crazy.
And it caused me to say, oh my gosh, I want to do that. I want to help create value in advertising. I want to help create advertising that is interesting, that is purpose driven, that is useful, that is utilitarian, that actually cuts the bullshit out, right? And makes it useful to me. And that's the way I'd seen it. And so at that time, I really credit that to my like choice to get into the world of advertising. And so then I chose to
Couldn't
study, advertising in school and went from there.
Yeah, couldn't be any better. It's like that's it. That's where we get our ideas and our inspiration, right? That's the point on kind of why popular culture is a really strong spot to be in. If you make the stories, you get there's a lot of energy in those who make the stories and show you places that you didn't know existed before, right before it's actually possible or doing it.
Yeah.
Mine's Yeah, I think everybody has that movie. And then when you get into the metaverse world, like everybody's got that movie that really was like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. But I couldn't agree with you more. It's at the core of my background too. It's like I don't think it has to be. It can be useful, and but then how
Yeah.
like ads can. We're bringing people to the places they should be, or showing
Sure.
them and inspiring them with things they didn't know existed, or with communities they didn't have any clue about. What they did, and that you can go too far for sure, right? Like you can get Minority Report where where it got on the creep factor, but man,
Absolutely.
I'll take that. And a nicer version of that for me was Back to the Future too. Like seeing
Sure.
the new Jaws movie ad jump out and get him, I was like, oh, I'm in. Like this is a town I would love to walk around in. So you were marketing 2002. You got the bug, not only for that, but for more modern marketing, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't a Mad
Pushing the
Men
envelope.
episode. It wasn't a Mad Men episode or
No.
anything like that that got you going. So you definitely went to school for that and got out. And what did you start doing then?
Yeah. So I went right into working for ad agencies. So worked in social media at an ad agency, a lot of Fortune 100 style brands, having a lot of fun, consumer brands, telling great stories, Super Bowl ads, these kinds of fun key things. But really cut my teeth there working with a large grocery, one of the largest grocers in the country. And um, realized that they had a need at that time for what they were calling blogger outreach. And this was, I don't know, 2013, 2012, 2013. And, um,
Mhm.
we had to pioneer a lot of that and have a lot of fun there. So this is working with food bloggers and mom bloggers and these sorts of folks. And this is what then
Early in the world. I
became
mean, that's early
yeah.
early days.
Yeah. It's what social from a corporate standpoint was still relatively new, right? Facebook had
Yeah,
only
totally.
been open. I mean, it started in '06, but it really, 05, '06, but it really was only open for normal folks and, non-college folks for a few years. YouTube had only been around a few years. I think, Twitter and Instagram came out in '09, right? So we'd only been there in the corporate world for a relatively short time. So it was, where do we play? Where do we fit? How do we best tell story? And this is where these these cults of personality and cult and culture have some connections there. And the cult has a negative connotation, but if you look at it not in a negative way and say, hey, these are groups of people who are committed to something, right? Are committed to some sort of cause or some sort of interest. this is where we saw these pockets of democratized celebrity. And that's what I found with these mom bloggers and these food bloggers, that, hey, we are a grocery chain that's national. How might we engage and interact with them to motivate people to come into store and grow their share of cart? And so I built up the influencer program for what was the Kroger company, or is the Kroger company, over throughout the country, and had a lot of fun with that. And that's where then it led to this desire to break out and focus solely on what the term became of influencer marketing. And I just saw this future there where it was more organic, more unique, more authentic in its core. Certainly, people have bastardized it in certain ways, but at its core, if done right, it was this ability to connect with people who are blocking ads and skipping ads and don't like traditional marketing or advertising because it is obnoxious, it is in your face, it is tone deaf, it is cringeworthy. But they are choosing to follow certain people on YouTube or Instagram or blogs or wherever. And so this is where in 2015, I launched an agency called August United with the purpose of helping organizations, particularly Fortune 5 or Fortune 100 companies, create great influencer marketing programs that were not just campaign based, but that had a long-term vision and strategy to them.
Yeah, I sing it. I still sing it today. I still sing that today. It's like you got a commitment, right? Like especially when you're doing the larger brands, it was like you can't treat it like a. We wonder where the loyalty's gone, but we don't have a lot of, I always ask where the loyalty is to the consumer, to the culture that you're trying to get into, right? And it's like you want these programs, and I think it's still huge opportunity today to build programs that are beyond the campaign, right? I'm sure if you were agency world, you saw the opportunities coming too of just the world of heading to LA for the shoot, and spending X amount somewhere in the worth a million, a part of it for 1 30-second spot or whatever. The the cult that had kind of grown around that, but also like, hey, this world needs a lot more content, folks. Like this world is opened up, and it sounds like you had probably pretty good timing on your ideas behind August.
We did. We had some fun. Grew quickly. Became one of the fastest growing agencies in the world. Had a blast there. Honestly, it was great. It was fun, and that was, as recognized by Adweek, and just, had some fun. But here's what I saw is I had a couple of good friends who started Built by Gamers in 2019, and a person who truly has not played video games consistently since like Halo 2 back in the early 2000s. I looked and said, man, do I have a place here, right? Or am I just on the outside? And what I saw is very similar to what I saw in the early adoption of social media and the early adoption of influencer marketing. Is where I see the
Mm-hmm.
world of esport today. And what I mean by that is you have the leading edge brands who are gutsy and willing to jump in. And then you have a lot of brands that just are not yet. They're tiptoeing or they're not willing. I remember in the early days of influencer marketing, sitting in front of a prominent CEO at one of the largest companies here in the US, and him looking at me and saying, wait, you want me to spend what on a 17-year-old girl? A 17-year-old YouTuber? And I said, yeah, I do, because she hits your market better than that cable TV spot you're paying double, triple, quadruple for. So, yes, I do. And, it's helping these groups to see that time is a resource that we cannot create more of, right? We can create more money, we can create more knowledge, we can create more relationships, we can create better health potentially, if you want to call that a resource there. But time is one that we all have the same amount of. And so that disposable time we choose to spend somewhere. And what we're seeing is that so many folks are choosing to spend it in this gaming ecosystem, whether it's playing, watching, and engaging, interacting. And if your brand should be there and isn't, uh, that's a problem, and it's a problem that that can be solved. You just have to be willing to do it.
Absolutely, and I think that gets us a perfect gateway to the question of it is not rocket science to know that our jobs as marketers are, hey, if somebody's spending a lot of time with this medium, we should be there. We follow time and attention, or at least we have to this point of, hey, where there is time and attention being spent, we're going to go in there and help that. We come into that space. We'll buy our way into that space. Um, it has gotten a little harder with influencers and social, in where the CEO, it was easier whenever it was like, well, everybody watches TV. They have no choice. Everybody does this. So therefore it's pretty easy to get in the headspace and say, yeah, I should spend X million dollars on this spot because everybody's watching that. You know that. It got weird for them whenever they're like, didn't know, even know, recognize the YouTuber that has a line of 10,000 people, to lined up of super fans, but they'd never heard of it. It's a tough concept to jump into. And I think it's
Sure.
similar with gaming. It's like, okay, I know it's big, but for some reason we haven't seen brands, which a lot of times that is going to fund, I think, a good portion of the sport, as it has in traditional sports, to be able to bring it in and to grow it, at least a part of the equation. So, what has been the slowdown, or do you even see it as a slowdown? What's the barriers for those brand marketers when it comes to esports?
Yeah, I think we've had to catch up, and it is happening now. But uh, I think we've seen that many esports brands have been created, or esports organizations have been created by people who came up in the ranks of esport. And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but we haven't always seen all of the business acumen in the way that I think it needs to have for larger brands that have procurement organizations and CFOs and key business KPIs that they're having to meet. Uh, that To be able to tell it correctly, to be able to have attribution chains that are appropriate, to be able to report back appropriately, more than just uh, hey, we did this and it was great. So this is where it is maturing, and that's a useful thing. We're seeing that, and I don't want to say that by maturing it's becoming less exciting or more corporate or more boring. It certainly is not. It's just having a greater level of accountability, and that's useful for esport in general, because I believe that esport will kick the absolute butt of traditional sport when it comes to advertising attribution, advertising success, a through line of showing the outcomes, because of it being digital first. I mean, that's where it is. So the actions taken, the trackability, the key things that can be done right and showcase, all the way down the attribution chain, is unlike anything you're seeing in traditional sport. And I also think that the speed of content, the quality of content, the engagement of the fandom, the worldwide capability of fandom will and already is massively taking over the world of traditional sport. So that's been some of the hang up, is that we've had to catch up as an industry. We've had to build structures in here so that we can court a lot of these brands in, show good outcomes, show good success, and you're going to see many more follow.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and I honestly hadn't really thought of it that way. It isn't the brands not being willing to get in, it's that you have to somewhat build them something to buy.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to at least build them a fan as something that at least, I mean, everybody deals with this. I remember Facebook had to hire in a bunch of TV people because it's like, how do we have to start giving them the kind of world that they're used to somewhat, to bring them into this new world and to show them and to prove that to them. So I didn't think about it, but yeah, you're right. So you have to kind of build a framework that can talk to somebody who's looking to advertise or partner or sponsor in any way like that. It makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Now you have decided this is the place, right? Like this, let's jump in, because it seems like you kind of went through your career, and it looks like myself, you want to jump into those places. Whenever you see like the internet come, like social media coming or the internet jumping, like you only have a few of those in your lifetime. So let's get in. When you see those big opportunities, you want to, how do I become a part of it, right? Like that sounds right.
They're so fun. These uptrends are so fun. I love the art of the build. I love, going into places and helping educate on what this is and why it's exciting and why it's interesting. And I love it when people roll their eyes and say, "Man, no, I don't know about that. I don't know about this guy. I don't know about that idea." It's so much fun. And this is where we are in esport. And it is fun. It is fun to uh, wrangle things together, fix things that need to be fixed. But more importantly, there's so much opportunity for growth at the local level, at the at the youth levels, at obviously the national and international level. We're seeing that these fan bases are deep and rich and engaged. Like anything, the industry has its flaws, and I think this is where we all get together and work to elevate it. But yeah, so that's why I jumped in, is saying, hey, I've loved the world of influencer marketing. There's huge amounts of parallels. I mean, ultimately, that's what we are doing. We are building an organization from a revenue and monetization standpoint that looks akin to a traditional sports organization, but with lots of other capabilities. The other thing is we're seeing a parallel rise of blockchain and blockchain technology, NFT technology. And I believe strongly that the ways in which we are integrating it here into the world of esport uh, will be part of this revolutionizing the future of gaming in general.
Let's just go into that a bit while we have some time, in because of course I think that's even more so, whatever you want to call the metaverse, it's more of that. It's the backbone, the economy, right, of the internet, of like how uh you truly take that next step maybe to fandom, to where they actually become a part instead of just watching something or contributing to it. It's like I can actually own a piece, or I can have, I can rise with that. What do you see going on right now? It's a big one to swallow, right? It depends on where you are with that technology, but where do you see, what, paint me a picture like on Minority Report of how that would change esports, right? Like how does something like blockchain change how a normal everyday fan, is corresponding with their team or their favorite streamer?
Yeah, I think there are a number of ways, and I look at blockchain much more from a utility standpoint than a um, speculative asset, way to make money, right? Like I see it much more as the key utilities that we can have. Um, so the things we're seeing in the world of NFT right now, I think are lowest common denominator, and they're good that they are occurring because it's causing people to learn, to take notice, to step up. But yeah, there we see a world where when you are a BBG fan, you have access to your chosen wallet of choice, right? But that you can interact and engage with us in a lot of unique ways. So if you think of the arcade of old, where you would, interact and engage with arcade and receive tickets out, we see that there's opportunities for you to receive some sort of interaction, whether that is a token or whatever that might look like, or certain NFTs that are delivered out to you, not for the purpose of speculation or trading in that way, but things that showcase I have been a fan, I have engaged with the organization, with the players, with the content creators, And I want to be able to show that. And what we see is that there are ways to redeem, whether that's through our virtual price counter, right, of digital goods as well as physical goods, or whether once you have watched a certain player for a certain amount of time, that NFT has been tracking that, and it's an NFT that has smart contracts in it that show that, hey, you have engaged with or played or watched this certain player for 100 hours, and that unlocks an opportunity for you to play with them on stream, so you can challenge your favorite Valorant pro on stream. Or there's a certain amount of engagement and interaction with us and or our sponsors that allow you or give you access to the BBG fan party at VidCon that is happening next year, right? Or these sorts of different things. VIP access. If you can think about what is the season ticket holder experience for an esports organization or an esports fan, that's what we're building in blockchain, right? Let me take it one step further for our marketers in here. Let's say you're the CMO of Domino's Pizza or Taco Bell, and hey, our community is here, and we want to work with Built by Gamers on this. What I want to do is I want to run a campaign where our streamers are doing lots of fun things, interacting, engaging. We might run a tournament where we're inviting our whole community and even larger than our community in, and as part of that tournament, participants, as well as like where you place and what you win and what you do or what you find in game or as a part of it, you are rewarded with a certain Domino's Pizza NFT, right? Now we're going to have to work with the point of sale systems to ensure that this works, whether it's a digital point of sale on an app or a physical point of sale in store. But there are things that it might be as simple as a BOGO pizza or a unique pizza, or it might be the golden holographic one that is free pizza for the next year, right? Or for a lifetime, or all kinds of different things. But what I love about this is as you follow it down, when those are redeemed, first of all, we can show how many were minted and distributed. We can show how many were redeemed, and we can go all the way down that attribution chain to say, wow, we interacted with this many people. And through this Built by Gamers campaign, we have driven X amount of revenue at point of sale because of the redemption that can occur there. That's an advertising element, but I would say even bigger than that are all these engagement opportunities, these ways to showcase badging and growth and fandom and interaction and rewards. There's way more to it than that as well, but that gives you a peek into where our heads are at on this.
Yeah, if we go too far in, where I would love to, but my mind starts to melt just because of the amount of ideas that come out of it. But I think you hit it right on the head. Stop thinking about it. If you stop thinking about blockchain NFTs in general, about currency or money or art or
Yeah,
anything, and start
yeah,
thinking of it as the underpinning plumbing of how we show ownership and value inside of a digital world, right? Like it was going to happen. It's
spot
just
on.
this is the spot. This is the technology that finally gets us there. So all those disparate things, like we have, the thing is too, you have that a lot of that POS systems. Most QSRs, I was through the pain times. I was
You
in
can
there
use
whenever
QR codes for it. Yeah.
they have all of that now. So I do think it's going to
Yep.
take a minute for consumers and for that to get easier on minting and for us to break through those barriers of that some of that technology has. But I don't know if it's going to take as long as you might think, because once we hit the
I
go
don't think it
button,
will.
I think
Yeah.
I think that the plumbing's there to kind of work into the systems that we already had. It'll work a lot better. And for fans, we've been wanting this forever. People have wanted more skin in the
Sure.
game. Like look at Fortnite and just what people will do. I want it for identity for me. These are the groups I'm part of, and this
Yes.
is a way from my digital world where I spend half my life to be as fruitful and filled with my identity as my real world, right? And it's going to be an exciting time.
That's why we're seeing this rapid rise of that. Your in-game avatar or your online persona is as important as your as important in some cases, more important to you than your real life persona. And we can debate the ethics of that at another time. But when you look at this, uh, I see this stat. So, and it might have changed since I first pulled this, but at least as of early this year, the largest viewership on an Instagram live at concurrent viewership was Drake. So Drake had over 300,000 people watching his Instagram live concurrently. Previous to that, the record was Taylor Swift with 150,000 people concurrently watching her Instagram live. Let's contrast that with a relatively unknown in the world, in the larger world, Twitch streamer out of Mexico, the Greg FG, who was debuting his custom skin in Fortnite. And on his Twitch stream, he had over 2.4 million people watching it concurrently live. Okay. It pales in comparison. And these are folks who are then going to go and equip these digital skins, right? Digital goods, and spend money on these digital goods. And, it's not dissimilar to the way that we see people spending money on physical clothing or physical items because it showcases their personality, who they are. It says something about them. And, so I know some folks in here listening might roll their eyes, but if you are, you're probably missing the boat, or you are missing the boat. You need to recognize that there is a very real reality there. And we're seeing it, for better or for worse right now with this NFT craze and people changing over their Twitter profile picture, and Twitter just updating their technology to recognize whether that's a legitimate NFT or not, right? Like these kinds of things, that this world of digital goods is not slowing down. And if you as a marketer, particular marketer that is a pop marketer, are or focused in that, and if you're not having some sort of initial idea or thoughts around what your digital good strategy might be, as appropriate, not that it will be appropriate for every brand, but you probably better start thinking a bit about it.
Where should they start? And I mean, I know it matters on larger. It always does. Larger, if you're in the Fortune 100, it's going to be different. It's going to be they're rocking and rolling towards this. But if you're somewhere in the middle, you're a brand marketer that is wanting to kind of, who's maybe done more traditional sports in the past, sponsorships, and is like, dude, I really like. I'm watching every athlete and everybody whose ownership basically jump into ownership of esports. And I want to be able to kind of jump in. What would be kind of your push on how do you start, or where do you begin, or how do you start thinking about that different than a traditional marketing campaign?
Start by just paying attention, right? I mean, engaging with this space. And I hate to make it that simple, but it's hard to create strategy around something you don't know or understand or haven't spent time with.
Gotta spend time with it.
And, we see
Yep.
that with TikTok right now. And if folks have not engaged with the platform, they don't get it. They think they think that the audience that's there is different than is actually there. They don't understand why their polished, video doesn't work there. They don't understand the speed that you can't have, or it's a lot harder to have these huge pre-planned content calendars that are not operating at the speed of TikTok. They still think it's all about dancing, right? They don't understand that the music or the sound is the true connector and tag, if you will. So you got to spend time. And if you don't want to, then make sure people on your team are, and you have true consultants, ideally inside the organization, who get it and can advise you in an appropriate way. When I say ideally inside the organization, I'm going to retract that, because I don't know that it always is. I think we've seen this with great niche consultants, niche advisors, niche influencers that can advise you on this, and it's a lot easier to contract with someone like that than to try to hire an FTE.
And what's the agreed totally. And there it's start where somebody who has some experience there, right? Get in with somebody who's really done it or is doing it, and start in that place. Couldn't agree more. What is the thing that they shouldn't be doing? Like, where do you find is has been now? And I know you haven't seen everything there is yet, but what are the kind of actions or behaviors you've seen with brands, and you don't have to get specific, but that are the ones where you're like, you're not helping the situation with anything, and it could be on both sides. I think there's lessons learned from both sides. But
Yeah.
what does sponsorships what does a really great sponsorship look different than one that's not so great in the world of esports?
Yeah, don't so many organizations come in and try to force their will into a place they don't understand. And I would say if you're going to be in something
You
that's
don't
more,
say.
yeah, that's more on the edge of culture, uh, make sure you can suspend some judgment and be open to the idea that there's a different way of doing it, or r- charge ahead at your own peril. And I say that because you will be labeled as one of the, hey fellow kids, cringeworthy folks who are just trying to be there because you think you should, and you're not really adding, and in fact you're probably doing damage to your brand. So legal departments can be huge buzzkills, and they're often way behind where things are. Um, Folks who just don't get it can be huge, you know, buzzkills. But more than that, I see that brands come in and just try to say, yes, we want it exactly this way, and enough money and people are going to do it exactly the way you're saying, but it's not going to have the output or the outcome you want. So if that's how you are right now, I would say sit on the sidelines still. Like, let other brands who are willing to get in there and interact and engage in unique ways be there and learn from them and realize that, okay, we can look, act, feel, sound differently on this platform and in this place and through these voices than we do on our website, or than we do on LinkedIn, or than we do in a expo hall somewhere. And that's okay.
Yeah, and be okay with not reaping the benefits of going in with of the pioneers, right? You're
Sure.
going to be able to
Absolutely.
come in late. It's not the end of the world. What you're going to do is pay for it, right?
Yep.
You're gonna have the safety of saying, well, there's a best practice now, but what you're gonna do is miss the opportunity for those reaping kind of the benefits that are expounded, 10x, right,
Yep.
based on that, and really learning through that. So I love it. I agree completely. It's hey, we're not trying to force anybody's hand on anything. It speaks for itself. If you want to be part of 2.3 billion people, or pretty much 230 or 50 million, in the US. If you want to be part of that thing, great, find your way in. If you don't, that's fine too. um, how can people learn more about Built by Gamers? Where's a great place to go? I did see there's so much more to talk about, but I want to be cool with your time. Where can they go to find out a little bit more about Built by Gamers, and then yourself too, if they want to say hi?
Yeah, definitely. Our website, we are actually right in the middle of launching a new website. So I hope that's, well, depending upon when people listen to this, but builtbygamers.gg is our website, and there will be an opportunity to learn a lot more there. I'm relatively new to this organization, and there was like often happens, there's a huge need to elevate your outward presence there. So that's going to be launching here soon. Our Twitter, is Built by Gamers. Our Instagram, there's a lot of fun places to follow. If you'd like to interact with me, I can have the links down in the show notes here for my LinkedIn. It's probably going to be the best way to reach out. But yeah, we're excited. We're going to be bringing in this new website, we are going to be bringing in a bit of esport marketing education, right? That I'm thrilled about. So that
Cool.
marketers who are exploring this space, whether or not they end up working with us as a team they sponsor, I want to help elevate the way that marketers can see this space and transition to it. And I'm thrilled to be able to add a bunch of that to our new site as well.
And before we go, what I have to ask for somebody that is jumping in, and I love it. You jumped in and you're really kind of experiencing this with fresh eyes, which is always a needed and fun space. And my favorite place to be, learning something kind of get taking it from the hose, right? Like drinking from the fire hose.
Sure.
What's the thing where you really now? Events really haven't been back, and esports is like known for their
No, they
like
haven't.
the events, right? What has been that thing that surprised you the most so far in your journey? Where's the thing where you're like, oh God, yeah, we're this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but in the kind of this sport is crazy, or this world is nuts. Is there anything that comes up?
Just how young many of our players and content creators are. Now their audience will get older, but and I say that because there's a certain level of just business acumen that we're teaching to our players and content creators around, hey, you're amazing at this. And guess what? You can be even better as a personality if you do these things, right? And also, though, stepping back and realizing, gosh, you're 16 years old or you're 17 years old. You're also doing high school, like online high school or physical in person high school. And you have all of these commitments. You are a professional athlete with a coach, with scrimmages, with, you know, like key events that you're playing in, with practice, with all of the trappings of traditional sport, and you're young. And so there's just it's different. It's been different. It's been like, oh yeah, okay, let's it's almost more, I feel like it's more like college athletics where you are meeting with parents and when you're doing recruiting. And I'm not as involved in that side, but I see our people who are. And then for me as a
Totally.
marketer, it's like, okay, what's the balance and what can we ask them to do and what shouldn't we, and how can I elevate their media experience, their business experience, their acumen, to where when they leave, or if they leave our organization, they leave a significantly upgraded person from when they came in that manner. And so yeah, that's been fun. It's the uh, it's the authenticity of esport, which is why their community loves them. It's also the just gnarliness of it, that it's like, oh yeah, you are still a very young individual, and there's some things that we can help learn with each other.
Yeah, you're in this part of
Yep.
your world and life. Yeah, dude. Yeah, you just blew my mind even thinking on that. That I really hadn't thought of that specifically. And what a great opportunity though to really take these athletes and really provide that education
Sure.
and get them there, right? And build those programs. Like you said, right now, none of that's there. So it can get dangerous. It can get crappy. You can get into bad deals. It's like, you don't have to have that because we're building it from ground zero. So let's
Yep.
build in those protections for you can do that from the beginning. And these are the kinds of things I feel like that's what the funds will do. Not a big money grab to who can get the richest the fastest, but if you want to build this for the future, is there some really cool opportunities on just bringing them up in the right way, in a healthy way, so they also don't burn out, because I assume that's a lot going
Yes.
on for a young
Absolutely.
brain.
Mental health, balance, physical health outside of sitting in a chair and gaming. These are all things that cross training, these are all things that are important to the future of esport. And if not done right, it will not progress. If some of the negative elements there aren't solved, and we see that, I think, with any sport, you're constantly looking for how you keep your athlete at the top of their game mentally, physically, emotionally, socially. Those are all things that are important to us as well.
Can I have you on again and we talk specifically once you get in, we'll push it into 2022. I'd love to have you on again and dive down into some of those specifics when it gets to the training of these athletes, or how it is very specifically the same as and different from traditional what we know as traditional sports, and maybe get into the little bit of like, how this is kind of radiating out into colleges. I'm seeing it a lot now. I'm seeing a lot of college teams, and I see a lot of smaller colleges really get the upper hand business wise to be able to say, hey, we are offering this as a track, and there's a really big opportunity in that world.
Yeah. We're seeing it around the country offering esports tracks as part of the business college, and as well as obviously staffing teams, the collegiate teams, sometimes with scholarships and all of those pieces. Just continuing. Let's put some time under our belt, but I think that we could have an episode where we bring on a player and a coach as well. So there's maybe a couple of voices in that podcast episode and talk through just some of the things that they've seen and their experience with it. Obviously, from our side, the commitment we've made to that, but then how it's impacted them and how they're progressing forward appropriately.
I had a blast. So appreciative of your time, and I could talk on the esports thing. Uh, we could go on for a while, but it's near the weekend, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it, and yeah, I can't thank you enough for your time. A ton of insight, and I wish you an awesome weekend, my friend. And looking forward to the next time I'm out in Phoenix to be able to visit you out Built by Gamers and see what you guys have going on in the desert out
We'd
there.
love to have you come now through April, Joe. This is the time. Don't visit us in May, June, or July or August. But outside of that, I mean, if you're here, you're here, and we'd love to host you anytime. Appreciate the invite. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for live events. I can't wait to get to go to my first esport. Like I want to go to one of the pictures I've
You
seen.
and me both.
So it'll be soon. We'll get there.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy, brother. Have a good one. Thanks again.